Hello and welcome to iBuzz. I'm your host Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the latest news from showbiz world, followed by a very interesting discussion on fusion instrumental bands in Pakistan. First things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Golden Globe crisis, Tom Cruise returns awards and NBC drops ceremony. The Brit Awards attended by a live audience. Dua Lipa, Weeknd and Harry Styles among winners. Apple TV Plus announces Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry series debut date. Dua Lipa becomes first female artist in Spotify history to have 2 albums with over 5 billion streams. And Venom 2 director confirms that the film is not set in Marvel Universe. And now moving to the top story of the day. The biggest names in pop battled it out at the Brits last night as awards for the Best Album, Best Single and Best Group of 2021 were all up for grabs. With live performances from Dua Lipa, Coldplay and Olivia Rodrigo, it was a huge night for music screened live on TV. To discuss this further, we have Maggie Miles, who is a producer and lead creative at Savage Films. Maggie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Alongside, we have Alice Oliver, who is a senior video journalist and television presenter. Alice, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Alice, tell us about your feelings since you're from UK and this event happening after such a long time, after almost a year and a half. What were your feelings? Did it excite you?
Yes, certainly. And it was just so much more emotional, I think, than you sort of prepare yourself for. I think, obviously, it's been such a long time, like you said, that we've had any sort of live performance like that with a live audience. With sort of no social distancing in place and no mask wearing. And we had, there was around 2,500 key workers in the audience. So just a really special moment for them and for the performers, because, you know, being a musician, being an artist, you live for that audience experience. So to have that sort of taken away from them, it must have been a really sort of strange year for them. But just the whole thing coming together, it was just astonishing. And sort of what was going on stage and the whole look of the thing, it really was something quite special, I think.
Right. And Maggie, Dua Lipa, Harry Styles, Little Mix and Weeknd being among the winners. Do you think that the nominees were a tough competition for each other?
Oh, always. Absolutely. Because the overall standard was so extremely high. And how cool is Dua Lipa and her dedication to her fans and her honoring of her award, you know, to Jimmy, who unfortunately lost his life off London Bridge in such a heroic act. Really stiff competition and oozing talent all night. So the winners were well deserved, I thought.
Right. And Alice, what is your take on this?
Oh yeah, just to echo what Maggie said as well. And I think for Dua as well, because obviously being from London, that's such a huge part of her identity and she connects with the city so much. So it was a huge moment for her, and her whole performance, the medley, you know, that was also sort of London centric and just kind of really showed off that side of her personality. And it's just a brilliant moment for her and her fans, I think.
Right. And Maggie, BTS fans, they seem to be very disappointed. I mean, Haim themselves didn't seem to be very convincing about their win. That was a major setback. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, well, let me say that because I'm in Australia and I wasn't able to watch the live broadcast from, you know, the first second to the last second, that I've been popping into all the clips today. So I've got to say the biggest thing that's on my mind is potatoes and Yorkshire pudding, and everybody's thoughts on that on the red carpet, which just had me and my colleagues here in Australia actually laughing. So that's a different answer to the one you're looking for, but it was super fun here listening to that debate.
Right. And Alice, were you surprised on the BTS losing for the first time in a long run? I mean, they were anticipated for this award, but the fans seem to be very disappointed. And I was looking at Haim's expression, the entire group. They didn't seem to be very convincing about their win, and they looked very surprised. What are your thoughts on this?
It is an interesting one. We do have a huge BTS following in this country, but Haim have been making quite a lot of ground recently as well. But I find with that group, because they're quite sarcastic and they're quite tongue-in-cheek, so it's always sort of hard to gauge kind of truly what they're thinking. But yeah, there was a sort of definitely a look of surprise when they went to collect their award, for sure.
Right. And it's a little bit of woman empowerment as well, BTS winning all this time and, Haim breaking the stereotypes, all girls band. It was quite a winning moment for women, don't you think so?
Oh, certainly. And the whole awards ceremony as well, sort of so many just amazing women winning so many of the awards. And I think around 84% of the mixed gender awards did go to women. And I think Little Mix sort of touched on that in their acceptance speech, obviously being the first female band to win the Best British Band. So just a really great moment, sort of after a really kind of rubbish year.
Right. And what's your take on the revival of these public events and event venues? I mean, how do you think that the organizers made it possible, despite the fact that COVID is still there, the chances of danger are still there? But do you think that it was such a daring act that the organizers made, and how do you think that they managed to do this, pull the event so brilliantly?
Yeah, I think an event like that, the organizers and the safety concerns are always really high and at the forefront, even before COVID. And so with events such as that one and all the filming in the events here in Australia, COVID protocols are so strong. And also because we've been living in the COVID environment now for such a long time, I don't think there's a lot of resistance to the extra measures that are taken. And I love that moment when Taylor Swift was up at the podium and she saw Maisie from Game of Thrones and she said, "I just want to come grab you, but I can't because we're social distancing." So there's still a little bit, obviously, of social distancing happening. But, to have that environment whereby the performers and the artists are able to really enjoy themselves, and so many fans, and as Alice said, so many key workers be able to be present, because there's nothing like a live event when everyone's in the same breathing space, if you like. It's infectious, and I think it's entirely what people are really hanging out for right now.
Right, and Alice, just like Maggie said, that there was a bit of social distancing, and people attending the event live, they were tested before the event. So do you think that this was a bit of challenging for the organizers, and in future, if they organize such events, it can be challenging this way?
Oh, certainly. I think there's so much, like you say, meticulous organisation going into it. You have to make sure everybody gets tested and that they have a negative test before they go in. And then you've got to trust that they are sort of adhering to the coronavirus guidelines before they get to the event. So if they're coming on public transport, if they're using the trains or the buses, you just got to trust in them that they are doing the right thing to minimise the risk. But just a really huge milestone. We started our live events program. It's like a research program really for scientists and events organisers to see how we can do this safely moving forward. And we started that last week. And so far, it seems to have gone okay. And we haven't seen this sort of surge in cases or the revival of the virus that we might have been sort of worried about. So it'll just be interesting to see now over these next few weeks the consequences really of what's happened.
Yeah. So also your thoughts, Maggie, I would like to know your thoughts on the commendable move, like 2,500 tickets being sold to, in fact, they weren't sold, they were given to key workers and NHS frontline staff. What are your thoughts on this commendable move?
As you say, it's commendable, it's brilliant, and perhaps it's high time as well, as we've seen throughout the world under the COVID environment, and quite probably after the research of the Black Lives Matter movement. We've talked about the focus on women as well. Certainly around the world and here in Australia, there is such a stronger focus and a thoughtfulness about equality. And I think to enable that many key workers to come and enjoy an event such as that is something that I hope will remain as part of all large events, that will become part of putting events on like this, because it's also really great to mix communities up, I think, and for us all to be able to remember, therefore, that the diversity of people within our communities and therefore within events, you know, is represented.
Right. And Alice, how is this responded by the frontline workers community in UK? Of course, they're going to be happy about it, but, you know, given such an exclusive position, that 2,500 tickets being gifted to these people, how is this responded and how is this welcomed in the community?
I mean, it's like the least we can be doing for them, really, isn't it? And they are incredibly overwhelmed. I think they have shown how grateful they've been for the support that they've had over the past year. Like, most people have been so open about the fact that if without them, without the key workers, we would be in a very different position right now. And you see it sort of going around town, in and out of shops, everywhere are doing discounts, they're doing special offers, just trying to make them feel as valued as they possibly can. Because obviously we had some news earlier in the year that they weren't going to be getting the pay rise that they had expected to get, which was a huge blow for so many of them. So now it's really come down to kind of the community events, kind of the shops and cafes, just to make them feel, just to try and make them feel that little bit more appreciated.
Right, right. And Maggie, let's talk about Taylor Swift being the only non-Brit to win the Global Icon Award. Your thoughts on this?
Well, Taylor Swift is kind of pretty out there, isn't she? And she's so well loved. I think that speaks for a lot. And every time I've seen Taylor Swift step up to a podium, grab a mic, she's always connecting with her fans. She's always connecting with her community. She's been consistent and genuine, and she's, you know, it's well deserved, I think.
Right. Moment of truth, Maggie, your favorite performance that you witnessed last night?
Oh, I've got to say Dua Lipa. She's a standout. Amazing. And I loved her performance up at the podium as well, to take that question in a different way, and her dedication. That was a really, really soft spot for me.
Right. And Alice, yours favorite?
Definitely a hard question. There was a lot of fantastic performances that all just looked so phenomenal. But I am a huge Arlo Parks fan, so I really loved seeing her on stage. And I thought, just vocally, she's outstanding, and she was just wonderful, wonderful to see her live.
Right. Ladies, it was lovely having you for this discussion. Thank you very much indeed. That was Maggie Miles and Alice Oliver with their thoughts on the Brit Awards. And now moving to other story details of the day. Tom Cruise has handed back his 3 Golden Globes in protest at a lack of diversity among the body that runs the glittering annual Hollywood Awards. He is the latest star to join a growing chorus of criticism. NBC, which has aired the event since 1996, has said it won't broadcast the ceremony next year. NBC said it wanted to see meaningful reforms from the organizers, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. The Golden Globes are second only to Oscars in terms of profile. A highly anticipated multi-part documentary series from co-creators and executive producers Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, now has a debut date. The Apple TV Plus announced Monday that The Me You Can't See, which features stories meant to help lift the veil on the current state of mental health and emotional well-being, will premiere May 21st on Apple TV Plus. According to a news release about the series, Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry guide honest discussions about mental health and emotional well-being while opening up about their mental health journeys and struggles. British singer Dua Lipa has become the first female artist in Spotify history to have 2 albums with over 5 billion streams. The singer celebrated her latest achievement on social media a day before her performance at Brit Awards. Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage director Andy Serkis confirms that the new Sony movie is not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Director Andy Serkis spoke about the release of the Venom 2 trailer and all of the secrets his directorial debut holds. When asked if the new Sony film will take place in the MCU, Serkis confirmed that it will be set in its own world. Now, we don't know if this is good news for the fans or the bad news, but we hope that Venom won't disappoint the fans this time. We'll take a quick short break here. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In this segment, we will be talking about the instrumental fusion music. Now, fusion music is no longer alien to the ears of music lovers, and Khumaria are among a creative generation of young musicians resurrecting reverence for Pashto folk music in the Pakistani national consciousness. In 2018, their cover of the classic Pashtun folk song Ya Qurban on live music series catapulted the band onto the global stage as the video amassed more than 13 million views on YouTube. To have a further discussion on this, we have bandmate Sparlay Rawail. Sparlay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
And alongside, we have Amir Shafiq. Amir, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
So, Sparlay, tell us that how was your music welcomed? I mean, what convinced you guys to choose this instrumental band and form it?
Generally people give long-winded philosophical answers. I'll point out the exact time when we thought we should probably get into folk music and we should probably get into instrumental music. It's when we saw a very well-known pop band, actually 2 or 3 pop bands, perform the same exact folk number at the end of their set. It was called Lal Shahbaz Kalandar. And we thought, okay, if the entire crowd is not dancing to your entire set, but they start dancing on the folk song, and that means that there's something in it. There's something in the folk music, and there's something which resonates with the people. So and then on the same stage we saw that the focus was always on one person. So for example, if I take any big pop star's name, you'll know his name, but you won't know his guitar player's name. Something like that.
Okay, and Amir, tell us that, of course, we know that there is no vocalist, no lead singer in an instrumental band. But what are other aspects that make it different from other bands?
Well, I think the first thing is I think Sparlay covered it pretty much well enough. But as I see it, instrumental music, first of all, it has a lot of experimentation that you can do with it. There's so much room for it. And then again, you don't have a language barrier, especially if you're looking at it beyond your regional outreach to the national level and then international level, of course. So you don't have that kind of a barrier inside. So that's what it kind of makes it unique. And you don't find mainstream instrumental music that much, or instrumental band around that much. So that kind of clicked us. And then again, if you bring a lot of your own liking or what you grew up listening to, you bring that, and there's a lot of room for it that you can play with it. Let's suppose if I play, I have an inclination towards heavy metal music. Farhan always had that towards Pashto and that the pure, what you'd say, a folk element to it. And then how you blend it in, and there is it doesn't overpower each other and it doesn't go out of place. So that harmony, getting that, so there's a lot of room for it, and you have so much, you can do so much with it. You can blend it with folk, you can blend it with the blues, which we've done, and it works. So you can have a wider appeal rather than restricting it to one particular genre of music or listeners.
Right. Sparlay, a hyper folk music band that involves fusion. You guys have been doing an amazing job together. So tell us that, is there a mastermind behind each symphony, or is it a teamwork?
What do you think? I think
I'd like you to answer that.
I just finished saying that we are kind of, we have a problem with one person taking the limelight. And even when it comes to compositions, one person playing one thing on stage is not going to, give the audience what they want. which is hyper folk, hyper folk music, high energy music, music of their land. It needs to be in combination with things. So everyone has their own things which they contribute. Sometimes I'll play an opening, and then Farhan will go right into a chorus, or Farhan will come with a little bit of a tidbit, and then everyone adds into it, or Amir will bring in some sort of melody on the guitar, and then we'll jam to that. So all these things they come together, and then Shiraz is the one who kind of just adds the energy into it. So I would say that every one of us is it's a very democratic band. There's no one person
Right.
which is responsible for one single track. And especially the track that you named, Ya Qurban, that was a pure collaborative effort. That was that our creative process is that we do jam, but we jam on the stage before a show.
Right.
So when we're doing a sound check, we'll just play something which came to us instinctively, and then someone catches and okay, let me work on this, and then post show we work on it a little bit. We meet again, and then that's how we develop our tracks. I mean, it's a very different sort of it's not a traditional model where people sit down and jam for hours and hours and hours, and then they make something. Ours is a bit it's more feeling based. If there's something something plays, we like it, we capture the melody, and then everyone works on it.
Right. And Amir, tell us then how do collaborations pay off, and how much do you enjoy working in a collaboration rather than creating music in your own environment?
Well, I would say every aspect of it has its own charm, and you enjoy both processes. And obviously, like when you are doing your own thing as us, particularly about the band, we are more focused on what we have to do, and we know how we sync with each other. And obviously, if you're collaborating, there is a new element that is coming up, and you learn a lot about it. So it explores another dimension, it opens another door for you, and it's a never-ending process. So you enjoy every, I would say, every step of the way. So it's unique every day. Every day you're learning something new, and it doesn't become monotonous. So that's the part I love about it.
Right. My next question is from both of you. We'll start off with Sparlay. That how was your music welcomed in countries abroad? Because of course you're carrying a folk music genre from especially KPK, which is only understandable in Pakistan at most occasions. So how was your music welcomed while you performed in other countries?
I think Amir touched upon the fact that since there are no lyrics, so there's no language barrier. And the other thing is that it depends which country you go to. So if, for example, you go to the US, they don't know what Pakistan is like geographically, culturally, what languages we speak. I mean, they have one language, and they have accents. Right. We have a dozen languages and dozen different cultures and all that stuff, and but they don't know these things. The only thing that they do understand and they do know is that this is the land of harsh people, and there's this hard image that we have, a stereotype of the Pashtuns and generally Pakistan. So when they see people like us go there, speak in their language, be able to present our music, and then we sort of give out lecture demonstrations in which we tell them about the music, the concept behind the tune, the instruments themselves, their construction, the background story, everything. I mean, that makes it even more, it makes it more wholesome and more meaningful for them. And so, I mean, to be short, they absolutely, we've had an astonishingly well-received track record when we've been abroad. And be it the US or be it the EU or the UK, anywhere, Kenya, Thailand, everyone just seems to like the music, because the fact is that it's when it boils down to it, it's basically a beat and a melody, and a beat and a melody, which is present in every single culture, because it's something very basic and something very folksy. You don't need highly precision tools to make these instruments.
Right, fantastic. Sparlay and Amir, thank you very much indeed for being with us today.
Thank you so
having
much.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Band members from Khumaria telling about their journey of fusion music. That is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.